everyone, welcome back to Atma Occult.
Our channel where we compile useful information from classical occult traditions to help you get more out of life.
And we hope this video really helps you out because I've got to tell you, we are currently in a Mercury retrograde period. And this happens very often, as we will discuss later in this video. But this particular Mercury retrograde, that's why we were like, we've got to make a video about this. It has been a really extra obnoxious period. Yeah, it's been really obnoxious. We've been having a lot of just extra kind of annoyances and frustration. Just a lot of like those inconveniences that as we go through this video, you see are kind of typical of a Mercury retrograde period. And most of the time I don't really notice it too much. I'm not really as affected, but I don't know what's going on. This is like extra Mercury retrograde-y or something. But anyway, it prompted us to make this video
because there, I think, are a lot of misunderstandings out there about what Mercury retrograde means and also when it's even happening.
Yeah, and especially if you don't pay attention to Vedic astrology, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, Mercury retrograde could be said to be at a very different time when it's really not, because when you go with the Vedic astrology, everything is very precise with timing. Because
using sidereal calculations of the positions of the planets.
Yes, because it shows where exactly the planets are right now.
And we're going to give you those dates.
Yeah, as opposed to Western, which is off by...
It's, I think, between 23 and 24 degrees. So oftentimes if you go on just some mainstream blog or something where they just happen to mention, because they know people love astrology, they happen to mention that it's Mercury retrograde, a lot of times it might actually be like almost a month off from when it actually is going to be Mercury retrograde. And that's not useful because you're going to think it's retrograde when it's not. And
and then all of a sudden it's going to be a different time that you're having all these difficulties and you'll have no idea why.
When it actually is Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, exactly. So just to talk about what retrograde means, planets are typically moving forward
through the zodiac.
So
the zodiac starting from Pisces and starting from Aries and ending with Pisces, you know, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. All the planets are typically moving from Aries to Pisces through the signs in that way.
Which is counterclockwise if you were to draw a circle with your finger. So that's forward for a planet.
Through the zodiac.
Through the zodiac.
Yeah.
The only two exceptions that are always actually moving retrograde or backwards through the zodiac, which would be, I guess...
like from Pisces to then Aquarius to then Capricorn, in that direction.
Or clockwise if you're drawing a circle with your finger. Ketu and Rahu, the shadow planets, are always moving retrograde or backwards. But
except for there are some tiny exceptions where for maybe like one day they're actually they're stationary or going what appears to be forward. But that's just,
I didn't know that.
It's a tiny little detail. For the most part,
I learned something
they're always going backwards through the zodiac.
All the planets except the sun and the moon,
which are considered the luminaries.
The luminary, because they're bright, luminous.
Yeah, luminous. So the 5 classical planets.
Yes. So Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Venus, and
Mars.
I'm like, go retrograde every so often. Mercury, I think, is probably the one that goes retrograde the most often, would you say?
About 3 times a year.
Yeah, and I think it probably just has maybe some of the more obvious effects. And like that's why you'll hear even just in pop culture or in movies, well, I guess Mercury must be retrograde right now. Like I hear people say it all the time, but they don't even know what they're saying. They just know it's a time of kind of like disarray, I guess.
Yeah.
So right now, Mercury retrograde, or in Sanskrit would be called...
Vakri.
Buddha, he's my Sanskrit guy. is considered a time when Mercury's natural significations, which is communication, intellect, travel, business, technology, analytical thinking. So those are the natural significations. But when Mercury is retrograde, all that becomes very distorted and disrupted. So you can see...
That's very inconvenient.
Yeah, you can see why it's so inconvenient and frustrating, because these are things that you got to do on a daily basis, whether it's, you know, for work or for personal. And if it's constantly getting disrupted, it's like, whoa.
Your communication might get disrupted. Your electronics get disrupted. Your short distance travel, trying to get to work, trying to get to here or there, can get disrupted. Your thinking can get disrupted.
Exactly. So,
and one of the most unpleasant ways that this can manifest is, for some people more than others, it can affect the analytical thinking in such a way that, because Mercury's going backwards, they'll want to go backwards and reanalyze things over and over. And it's like, it can create like a second guessing. Or a doubtfulness. Where you already decided something or moved on with a particular path, but then Mercury's making you go back and rethink it over again.
Reanalyze when you really don't have to. Also, I think it can cause a lot of miscommunications, which can obviously lead to misunderstandings or disagreements between people, just because the communication got a little bit warped. And usually it's,
someone took what you said completely wrong when it was
totally unintentional.
Totally
unintentional. But Mercury is kind of messing with that communication. So, anyway, currently we are in Mercury retrograde, and
that's why we wanted to make this video. So just to clarify, so that you have the dates for this year of 2025 when Mercury is actually going to be retrograde, rather than just these blog articles that are kind of they're using Western astrology, which is 23 to 24 degrees off, miscalculated.
And this video will help you kind of be ready, a little bit more ready or prepared by just having the knowledge. So you'll be ready for the next one.
And the reason we're making this is so you can protect yourself from the effects, or try to as best as you can. So we're going to provide a lot of remedies for it. But the actual dates for Mercury retrograde are March 15th to April 9th. That's the one that we're in now for...
Oh my gosh, we have a long time left.
2025.
April 9th.
July 18th to August 12th of 2025. And November 10th to December 1st of 2025.
So, to understand Mercury retrograde through the Vedic thought, a vakri Mercury is strong in magnitude, but often produces reversed or confusing results, which we kind of mentioned earlier. Mercury governs intellect, or in Sanskrit,
it's called buddhi, which is very similar to the name for Mercury, which is buddha.
It also governs your speech, writing, and commerce, or any sort of...
that's like transactions.
Like business transactions, or...
like a cash register, or like stock market transactions, back and forth trading. So during Mercury retrograde, these areas can face a lot of errors, delays. You can have mental restlessness within your own mind, like we talked about, miscommunications, misunderstandings. So it can cause a lot of problems. So this is why, making this video can hopefully be really helpful. You can be more knowledgeable about Mercury retrograde time period, and any sort of knowledge can help you kind of just expect things and then kind of prepare for them. And that's one of the major goals of why we're compiling all this information and making these videos about all the stuff that we're talking about from classical occult traditions, is not just to think about it or philosophically think about it, or just as like a hobby interest, but to actually be able to use the advice which is given from classical texts, which many people often ignore, as antiquated, but use it practically to get better results and to avoid certain negative things or capitalize on positive things.
Yeah, if you understand and learn and use astrology, like we always talk about, it's the original self-help. If you can actually, use these things in your life.
Before psychologists, there were astrologers.
Yes, yeah, and
before self-help gurus, there were astrology
or books.
gurus. Yeah,
yeah, or people that are like, or life coaches. Like this, it all comes from somewhere, and this stuff was written thousands and thousands of years ago. So, use these things in your life. There is absolutely no reason why you can't improve your own life. Anyone will tell you, diet and exercise makes you healthier. Just like any of those other things, understanding Vedic astrology can also help improve your life. So some of the remedies that can help you protect yourself or take some sort of measures during a Mercury retrograde period, we have drawn them from several texts, like we talk about some of the ancient Vedic texts.
Such as Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra and any other Shastra related to Jyotish or Vedic astrology.
Yes. So the first thing would be, Mercury is, of course, the planet we're talking about. So any way that you can strengthen the planet Mercury.
And what this would be referred to in Sanskrit is budha, graha, shanti. So graha, shanti, graha means a planet. Budha, as we mentioned before, means Mercury, and Shanti means peace. So Graha Shanti means making peace with a planet or all of the significations related to that planet in your life. And that strengthens that planet in your birth chart, and it also kind of creates, you can imagine almost like a protective shield, karmic protective shield from any negative significations or things related to that planet that could kind of mess up your life. So the most powerful way to do this is through the recitation of mantras of the planet Mercury. And we have those mantras on our channel, so we'll put a link below to our recording documenting the sound of the Mercury mantra. But using the Mercury mantra, if you ever use mantras or are interested in mantras, like sometimes a lot of people will get interested in Om or Om Mani Padme Hum or different mantras that have become really popular. Well, the mantra of Mercury can be extremely useful to you, especially during the time when Mercury is retrograde, to try to avoid some of those Mercury-related issues.
And even if you just listen to the mantras that
still works.
That we have recorded, because sometimes you might not be into chanting, you might not have time for it, but just put it in your earbuds, listen to it. That's almost
in the car on the way to work.
That's just as helpful. It's better than nothing, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be most powerful and most effective if you do this on a Wednesday, especially during the hour of Mercury. That can be a little bit complicated to learn how to calculate for a newcomer to Vedic astrology, but the first hour of Mercury, which is going to be the easiest one to understand when it is going to be the first hour of the first hour of the day after sunrise. So if you know that sunrise is at like 7 a.m. or something like that, then from 7 to 8 a.m. on a Wednesday is going to be the time of the week that is most ruled by Mercury. And so it's like Mercury is available at that time. Mercury is super available for you to connect with all the archetypes and significations of Mercury and also do that Graha Shanti of making peace with the energy of the planet.
So in addition to meditation, you can do some sort of charity. All the grahas love when you as a person do charity, and especially if it's related to them, it's going to, kind of make them happy, for lack of a better term right now.
Making good karma.
Making good karma. So the color associated with Mercury is green. If you donate green items, so that's charity with the color green, so like green lentils,
green clothing,
any and other things related to Mercury.
Mung beans.
Sorry, Mung beans.
When you get into astrology, you may be into astrology already, or you may be a newcomer, but when you get into it, there are lists in these classical texts of things, because everything in the entire world is related to one planet or another.
Or multiple
sometimes. But there are lists of things which are related to a particular planet. And so what she's doing right now is listing things that are related to Mercury, like green clothes, mung beans, and things like that. And donating those things is said to appease Mercury.
And there's thousands. Wow, there's thousands. There's lots of things you can associate with Mercury, but we're just giving you a few that would be kind of readily available. So especially if you do these donations on a Wednesday, as we said, it's the day of Mercury, and to a poor student.
And, well, most students are probably going to be poor anyways, because they're young and they're studying, so they haven't gotten their income yet. So that's
a poor student.
So finding a poor student is probably
Are you poor?
pretty easy.
Are you a student?
Are you a student and are you poor? But basically, education of any kind is signified by Mercury. And so a person who's engaging in education or receiving their education full time, like a student, a young person who's going to college or going to school, that person then is kind of represented by Mercury. And so what the classical texts are doing here is they're trying to connect everything in your charitable action in some way to the significations of the planet. And so it's like a green thing or a thing that is ruled by Mercury, and you're doing it on a Wednesday, which is the day of Mercury, and you're giving that thing in charity to a person who is ruled by Mercury. So that kind of is like a flag, a metaphysical flag that's going up that's saying like, hey, Mercury.
I know you're distressed. But
Mercury, like, I want your help. Mercury, please help me. Please give me good Mercury karma.
Please don't let your retrograde affect me.
Yeah.
So another thing you can do is fasting or very specific observances called vrata.
Vrata is the Sanskrit word which kind of means fasting, but it means fasting in kind of a very intentional way. And the simplest way to do that with Mercury is to fast on a Wednesday. Wednesday in Sanskrit is actually called budhāya. So Buddha is Mercury and Vara is the day of the week. So basically what I'm saying is in Sanskrit, Wednesday is referred to as the day of Mercury. You can also see this in other languages, like miércoles is Mercury. But so fasting on a Wednesday is referred to as the budhāya vrat, or the fast which appeases Mercury.
If fasting is not possible for some reason, you can just eat very clean, simple food. Don't overindulge, especially eat green foods. Green is Mercury, and try to avoid salt for the day.
So this is just incorporating some kind of like austerity or restriction to show that you're having some sort of reverence for the day that is related to Mercury.
If you also would like, you can use the Mercury yantra, which is a sacred kind of geometrical pattern. Every graha planet has one. So if you want to draw it, wear it, look at it, that could be something that could help remedy during this time.
Yeah, and we have the Mercury yantra in our videos for the Mercury mantras, because mantras are said to go with yantras. A yantra, like a mantra, is the sound vibration form of the planet Mercury. The yantra of Mercury is the geometric form of that sound vibration.
So if you watch our video, you're kind of getting two birds, one stone there. And this will kind of help reduce that confusion that can happen. Mercury also rules the nervous system and intellect. So in Ayurveda, so if you practice something called pranayama, which is different breathing techniques that will help calm the mind. If you use certain herbs, such as gotu kola, Did I say that right?
Yeah, there's a particular type of tea called gotu kola.
Yeah, we drink it a lot, actually.
Or it's also referred to as Brahmi in Sanskrit.
That can also help with strengthening your memory. It's recommended by Ayurvedic texts.
If the more metaphysical or spiritual things don't appeal to you as much, these are very, very practical things which will also help you kind of remedy the effects of the retrograde Mercury during the time.
One thing is to avoid signing contracts hastily, or just make sure you really review your documents thoroughly. Because remember,
miscommunication, misunderstandings,
writing, anything that has to do with Mercury can be just easily confused. So just be aware. Double check your communications. Be extremely clear, whether it's written or verbal.
Texting.
Texting
Emails.
Especially. Anything that's read is going to be very subject to interpretation, so be aware. But just make sure you're really, really clear with what you're trying to convey during this time.
Also, if it's possible, of course this might not be possible for every situation or everyone, but if it is at all possible, if you have big decisions that need to be made and that need you to really think about it to make the best possible decision that you can, try to postpone it until after Mercury turns direct again, because that will help you avoid some of these misunderstandings or sort of slips in the intellect which can cause you to make the wrong decision. Also, double check and reconfirm your travel plans just to make sure that you didn't think you had a plane ticket to leave at this time, or
you have the wrong date or something.
Yeah, or you thought you were supposed to show up at your aunt's house on this day, but it's actually 3 days later or something like that. That kind of thing can happen a lot during Mercury retrograde, so definitely double check all of your travel plans and information related to that.
Yeah, and expect
double check everything.
Probably, double check anything,
honestly.
Everything. But Mercury obviously has to do so much with any sort of communication. Expect that there would be travel delays, so maybe leave a little bit earlier for somewhere that you really need to be on time for, and just be aware. Vedic astrology encourages this self-awareness during any sort of difficult planetary periods. There's all sorts of them that occur, that can occur and do occur. So just act thoughtfully, avoid any impulsiveness. And
this might affect people who have a Mercury-ruled ascendant or moon sign as well, more than other individuals. So if you are a Virgo or Gemini ascendant or moon sign, it could be a little bit more stressful for you than for other people.
Yeah, and that's because, of course, your planet of Mercury is the one that's being that's going through a difficult time or being affected. However, it's affecting all of us because we all have Mercury somewhere in our chart. So why these remedies work according to the ancient Vedic thought. Mantras, rituals, and charity create positive karmic vibrations that harmonize the planetary energy.
Yeah, and that kind of relates back to what we were talking about before, where you're doing Graha Shanti, making peace with that planet, making peace with everything that planet rules in your life to get better results out of your relationship with that planet, because everyone has some form of relationship with all the planets. If you go to a psychologist, the way that they'll say this is they'll say, well, you can break your own psyche up into different parts and one part of you is saying this, and one part of you is saying this, and this part of me wants this, and this part of me wants this. That's kind of, they don't know they're saying this, or they might. It's code language for planets. Because this planet in your chart is kind of drawing you over here. This planet is pulling you over here. And so by doing mantras, rituals, or charity related to Mercury, you're really strengthening your relationship with that Mercury aspect of your life.
Yes, and Mercury is highly influenced by speech and intellect. So being correct, being very conscious with your actions in these areas will neutralize the malefic effects that can happen during Mercury retrograde. So again, just be very mindful, be very clear.
Thinking twice before you say something to make sure it's a good idea to say that particular thing.
Hopefully our video is, we're communicating to you. Hopefully Mercury retrograde's not affecting.
Well, the battery did die.
The battery did die as we were filming.
It and come back,
But if this video is not clear, it's not us, it's Mercury retrograde. Lastly, the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures stress the importance of meditation and discernment. To overcome the fluctuations that are caused by planetary transits. So Mercury being retrograde is considered a transit because it's what Mercury is doing right now in the zodiac, which is moving backwards through the zodiac. So
when she was mentioning Bhagavad Gita, talking about how meditation and deeper inquiry into the self-realization can help overcome the negative influences of planetary transits. This is kind of an idea in classical thought where if you have some form of deeper realization through spiritual practice, where you're connecting with whatever it is that your higher power or force is that you connect with, whether that's a deity or it's really not going to matter what religion or culture or spiritual tradition you're a part of. If you have some kind of discipline related to spirituality that you maintain in your life, that's going to give you the self-awareness to overcome some of these negative effects of planetary transits like Mercury retrograde, which really have the most negative effect on you if you're really unconscious. So if you are aware of it, and you're aware of yourself, and you're aware of your own consciousness and your own condition as a living entity, then it can help you just even through that knowledge to be aware of the fact that, okay, there's a negative planetary transit and I have to be conscious of this. Whereas from the classical perspective, if you are not aware of any of those things, and you're more operating on a level of kind of like being completely unconscious, that's when the planets, the word graha means seizer, or that which grasps the consciousness. And so a graha has more power to seize your consciousness and grasp you and pull you into all these different unproductive directions. The more unconscious and unaware that you are, the more it has that ability to take hold of your mind and maybe cause some negative effects.
Yeah, I just think if you can be aware of any tendencies or situations, I think that's like almost half the battle of being able to overcome them, is just being aware. Because so many people just aren't unaware, or they're just unwilling to pay attention enough to notice these things.
And that's something that our kind of modern civilization kind of perpetuates with so much social media and so much screen time and so much, looking up to celebrities and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not that all is bad and evil, but it can perpetuate and create a state of unconsciousness of being hypnotized by the phone and things like that. It can dullen the consciousness a little bit and cause you to be maybe a little bit less aware than you could be. Yeah.
Well, the good news is your screen time with us is learning.
Yeah. So just as an overall recap of everything we talked about in this video, the dates for Mercury retrograde this year, and especially right now, are March 15th through April 9th. So the Mercury retrograde that we're in right now is going to end on April 9th. The other two Mercury retrograde periods that you have to look forward to are July 18th to August 12th and November 10th to December 1st. And then there were 4 main remedies that we talked about in trying to kind of protect yourself from Mercury retrograde during this period. The first one was Buddha mantra japa, so the mantra of Mercury. And that's going to stabilize Mercury's energy in your life and help you to always come to the right decisions and not come to wrong conclusions or get wrong information. And we have a link below to the mantra of Mercury. Also, donating Mercury-related items to Mercury-related people is going to pacify Mercury's karmic imbalances that are taking place during this Mercury retrograde period. Pranayama and Ayurvedic techniques for calming the nervous system and the mind, as well as the Mercury yantra, which is the geometric form of the sound vibration of the mantra for Mercury, and that's in our Mercury mantra video as well.
So we really hope that these remedies help you through the Mercury retrograde period. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video and comment on this video. We'd love to hear from you.
If you're having an experience with Mercury retrograde, or if you've had any in the past that you found really interesting, and you have any insights about that, definitely let us know in the comments below.
Yes, and if you try any of these tips, let us know what
we want to know what your experience was.
Yeah, did they work for you? And as always, visit us at atmaoccult.com to see all of our consultation options, book options, and articles, and just more information about us. And
watch all of our other videos.
Watch our videos.